Hey, welcome to this edition of the 13th Floor Uptown Lowdown. I'm Marty Duda, and along with Jemilah Ross Hayes, we'll be reviewing the new Joan as Policewoman album, and we'll have a special guest reviewer for that one, so it's going to be exciting. Also, Oxford's on board to tell us all about Last Night in Soho, so we'll have a lively discussion about that film that's opening this week in cinemas around the country. But first, we have a brand new news segment for you, where we're going to be bringing you all sorts of stuff, tour information, stuff that's going on around the world, and also some births and deaths. So if you're interested, stay tuned. It's happening right now on the 13th Floor's Uptown Lowdown. All right, we're time now for the 13th Floor Uptown Lowdown news report. We got news from the 13th Floor's perspective, and to bring us some new concert dates, here's Jemilah.
Yes, we've got a couple of concert dates for people touring their albums. We've got the Killers coming to New Zealand for a massive 9-date mix of arena and outdoor shows on their Imploding the Mirage tour, which will be in 2022 in November and December.
Are you a Killers fan?
I don't dislike them, but it's not really my genre.
They're quite the arena band, so it should be fun.
Yeah.
And the new
It'll be really fun to see live.
Yeah. So carry on. Who else is coming?
Yes, we've got Joan as Policewoman here in 2022 as well, but more earlier in June. Yes. She'll be here with her band following a sold-out solo tour around Aotearoa in 2019. So a lot of these artists, it's been a while since they've been back, so people will be looking forward to seeing them. Touring her album, The Solution is Restless.
Which we are going to be reviewing right here on this show, and we have a special guest reviewer, so people will want to not miss that. I guarantee it. So yeah, that's at least it's nice to see that these shows tours are being announced. People are coming back. Things are getting normal. That's very good. Now, speaking of people coming back, our man Bob Dylan is back on the road. His never-ending tour did come to an end a couple of years ago. He'd been doing it since the mid-'80s. But of course, COVID cut him down. But now he's back. He's 80 years old. He's back on the road, and he just did his first show in Milwaukee a couple of days ago, and it's just like he's never gone. So that was his first live appearance since 2019, and it's the tour as it is now is being promoted to go until 2024. But we know it'll just go until he drops probably. So we'll see what happens. But apparently, the first song that he performed when he got back on the stage was Watching the River Flow. And then most likely you'll go your way and I'll go mine. So hopefully Bob will be coming our way very soon, because I will be there.
I can't imagine touring at 80 years old. That's insane, but props to him.
Another guy who's back in the saddle is Billy Joel. Now, apparently, Billy Joel has had a regular thing at Madison Square Garden in New York because, he's the piano man. He's from Long Island, so he's the local boy. So he had a gig there every month. And so that came to an end because of COVID. And so now he's back celebrating and doing his thing at Madison Square Garden. And he did that as well. And he was honoring the firemen, and he had a helmet from 9/11, and just a lot of stuff happening. He's doing New York State of Mind, of course. And it's just a beautiful thing. So things are getting kind of back to normal. And so now we have Billy Joel and Bob Dylan on the road. The rest of and the Stones just finished their tour. It's just crazy. These guys are in their 70s and 80s, and they're doing this. It's insane.
Now that we've got Snoop Dogg asking for some respect for rap artists, saying that in comparison to rock and roll, they don't get as much respect and recognition. Quoting him saying, they don't limit the Rolling Stones, they don't limit those other groups that do it outside of our genre. You got rappers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You ain't got no motherfucking rock and rollers in the Rap Hall of Fame. So right. Slow down a little bit. Yeah. And start putting some respect on our name and give us the respect for who we are.
Well, that's interesting because, it is interesting when you think about it. It's like, it is true. The older I get, the more I am not interested in genres at all. It's all music to me anymore. So, and I think that's kind of where he's coming from as well. But
I think he's saying, it doesn't. There's a lot of old rock and roll bands that, as they get older, people still worship their music. Whereas rap artists, he's saying, man, he got white hair now when he used to have black hair, and it's all gray now. We love their music. We love them. We respect them. We come support them. We sing their music. Die hard fans. And that rap and hip hop should get the same love because they've also created something that's generational and going to last forever.
It seems that way. Well, one guy who is getting some love is our man Alejandro Escovedo. Now, he's a Mexican-American rocker who has been up here to the 13th floor, who I love dearly because he performed a Mata Hoople song specifically for me while he was here. But be that as may, he, along with Lucinda Williams and Wilco, have just been inducted into the Austin City Limits Hall of Fame. And Alejandro was inducted by Lenny Kaye, who's Patti Smith's guitar player and quite the knowledgeable rock and roller as well. So I was very happy to see that Alejandro is getting some dues. He was an early punk rocker. He was in a band called Rank and File back in the day, and now he's kind of this roots rocker, and he just makes wonderful music, and it's good to see that he's getting some attention.
And I is having a good week, who we talked about last week with his new release. Spelled his name is spelled A-H-I, but pronounced I, like your eyeball.
Yep.
And he, after the new release of his album Prospect, he posted on Facebook saying he's absolutely speechless and that he can't say he's ever had an album debut at #1 on anything before. Saying, I know you all are supporting Prospect and I'm so humbled by this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, well, I think he's #1 on various Canadian charts because he lives in Toronto. But his music is definitely universal. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite albums.
For sure. That he seriously considered, throwing this all away when everything shut down, but it was you, as in the audience and his fans, reminding him of how his voice is needed and what his purpose was. And I think that's so beautiful because all of us who create music, it's, you have those downfalls of being like, man, what am I really doing this for? No one is recognizing it. So to push through that and to write about something like this album Prospect, it's really soulful, and to share that with the world and then to have the world receive it. And that's so incredible. That's all you could ever want as an artist, is that recognition.
Good on him. And now we get to the part of the births and deaths part of the news. Sadly, we've lost a member of UB40. His name is Astro. He was kind of the toastmaster of the band. He died, and his real name is Terrence Wilson. He's a founding member of UB40, and he died following a short illness just a couple of days ago. So we hate to see that. UB40, never one of my favorite bands, I will say that up front, but a lot of people love them. And then they were run by two brothers, the Campbell brothers, and they kind of split off, and there was a lot of stuff going on between them. But everybody's very sad to see that Astro is no longer with us. So there you go. And birthday-wise, it's Joni Mitchell's birthday. Her birthday is on November 7th. And she will turn 78 years old. It's incredible. There's been a resurgence of Joni's legacy lately. They're releasing archive box sets. We almost lost her a couple of years ago. She was very, very ill. We didn't think we were going to see much of her again, but she's been making a recovery and making appearances. And anyone who doesn't realize the importance of Joni Mitchell should get down to it and just start listening to some of that stuff. Because and so I have a clip that I'm going to play just to prove how important she is. On the volume 2 of the archive, there's a live recording of Joni in 1968, and it was recorded in the audience by none other than Jimi Hendrix. So Jimmy's in the audience, and he's got a little tape recorder and his microphone, and he's taping this live performance of Joni Mitchell. So let's give a listen to that.
Peridots and periwinkle blue medallions, gilded galleons spilled across the ocean floor, treasure somewhere in the sea, and he will find where. Never mind their questions, there's no answer for.
All right, so that was Joni Mitchell back in '68, recorded by Jimi Hendrix. And just to show, we have a Canadian person who's a Kiwi now, Tammy Nielsen, who's also a Joni Mitchell fan, and she has just released her version of a song called River, which is a very well-known Joni Mitchell song that was on the Blue album, which came out 50 years ago. So in honor again of Joni, let's give a little listen to Tammy singing.
It's coming on Christmas, they're cutting down trees, they're putting up reindeer singing songs of joy and peace. I wish I had a river I could skate away don't snow here, it stays pretty green. I'm gonna make a lot of money and I'm gonna quit this crazy scene. I wish I had a river I could skate away on.
All right, so that was Tammy Nielsen paying tribute to Joni Mitchell, who's just turned 78. Another rocker who is celebrating a birthday on the same day, on November 7th, is Johnny Rivers. Not as well known. He's going to be 80. I love Johnny Rivers. He's one of these guys that kind of came out of the 50s and didn't quite fit into the 60s immediately. Then he kind of found his little place. He was hanging out at the Whiskey A Go-Go and recorded all these live albums out there. And he had a great hit record. My favorite record of his is called Secret Agent Man. It came out in 1966. So here is a clip of him in 1966 singing Secret Agent Man.
There's a man who leads a life of danger. To everyone he meets, he stays a stranger. With every move he makes, another chance he takes, odds are he won't live to see tomorrow. Secret agent man, secret agent man, they've given you a number and taken away your name.
So now, speaking of Secret Agent Man, of course, the great Secret Agent Man is James Bond, and there's some James Bond news in here that we're going to mix in with the Johnny Rivers thing. Tell us about this new author that's writing these books.
So they're going to write books from a female perspective, which is very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's kind of apt because if you watch those old movies from the 60s, there's a little bit of misogyny involved in them. So I think somebody's trying to rewrite, fix things from there. So yeah, she's going to write these 3 books, and from a feminist perspective, which I think will be pretty interesting. And I'm guessing
it will be so interesting. Yeah.
And they'll probably make movies out of them, and eventually there will be a female James Bond. All right, now it's time for our new album review this week on the 13th floor is Uptown Lowdown, and we have a special guest. It's Caitlin Smith, because we're covering Joan as policewoman, and then there's no one I know who loves Joan as policewoman more than Caitlin. So you've heard the new album. Tell us all about it. What do you think?
I'm not allowed to swear, am I?
Yeah, you can swear.
Okay, it's Afro funky as fuck, basically. She's a collaborator. She's a producer. She plays violin, which she played with Anthony and the Johnsons and Rufus Wainwright. Her heritage is spectacular.
Yep.
Singer-songwriter, kind of later in the piece, plays and performs piano and guitar when you see her gig live. Right. And the amazing thing about this collaboration is it really is an amazing collaboration. It's Tony Allen, who was he's basically, I think it was Brian Eno, and I wrote it down, but it was basically, I don't think there's ever Brian Eno said about Tony Allen that he doesn't believe that a greater drummer has ever existed,
Well, according to Fila, who he drummed with, according to him, there would be no Afro funk if there wasn't any.
Without Afrobeat, without
Afrobeat, yeah.
Because he was actually Fela Kuti's musical director,
right,
for Africa 70, which was his band between 1968 and 1979, I believe. But he
I'm proud to say I saw them once.
Oh my gosh! And I was actually doing the crazy performance with the New Telepathics, doing all sorts of tributes to Fela Kuti, and I love Fela Kuti, and
we'll have to ask Jemilah if she's ever heard of Fela. Do you know who Fela Kuti is?
I haven't heard Fela Kuti, but I have heard Brian Eno before. I actually did like a study on
that's a good one.
University degree.
So this is like groundbreaking stuff that these guys did in the 60s and 70s, and Tony Allen was the drummer for all that. So
yeah, there was a collaboration that she had with, because I've got all the stuff on vinyl. I worship Joan Vassa. I perform a lot of her songs because I adore her so much.
Yep.
And she did this wonderful 2016 collaboration with Benjamin Laser Davis. And what I was introducing her as a multi-instrumentalist, it's actually beautiful to look at how multi-instrumentalists collaborate with each other. And that's what I'm actually talking about in my review, is that, you know, like Stevie Wonder or Prince, they could actually just be self-sourcing puddings. They could actually just do it all themselves. But that's what makes it so mighty when you actually have the collaboration. Because this was recorded in one night. They performed a tribute. It was doing, I wish I could know how it feels to be free, Nina Simone, where Joan Vasser was playing with Tony Allen, and they vowed they must collaborate together. So they did so in Paris with, now what's his name? He's the other guy on this album.
Damon Albarn?
Is it Dave Okuma?
Oh yeah, that's him. Yes, you're right.
Okumu. Yeah, so he's with The Invisible, and Anna Calvi, and Jack DeJohnette, and you know, all these people, and King Sunny Ade. So each time I keep reading these people and just like jizzing myself and getting so excited about it, because everyone seems to be actually related. And the thing was, she had worked with Tony Allen and Dave on this, introduced by the lead singer from Blur.
That's Damon Albarn. Yeah,
I should know that. Thank you, Damon. Yes,
that's what I'm here for.
And that was really interesting, because then I've just gone down the rabbit hole of wiki searches on all these people, because I'm relatively ignorant. But what I was struck by, and everything is like so related, was her mentor, like you say, who was Hal Wilner, who was the SNL sketch music person for 4 decades or more.
He died of
COVID-19. So it's really important to actually talk about and speak to all the COVID deniers out there. He passed away at the age of way too soon, at the age of 64, but he was a real mentor for Joan. Because the thing is with Joan is, he pulled together so many tribute concerts and so many like spoken word collaborations, and he organized, and I'm going to get this right, Came So Far for Beauty, which was the concert that was made into the album I'm Your Man, which is the tribute to Leonard Cohen.
Of course.
So that was organized by Hal. And so everything's totally related, because she, having worked with Anthony when he did that fantastic version of If It Be Your Will, you know, anyone who's seen I'm Your Man. So the album itself is just gorgeous. Like, I would really love to read, actually. I could pull you into this next room. You can walk through my house and actually
while we're traveling, I would just point out that that Joan has written a song about Jacinda Ardern on this album. Do you know that?
Oh my God! No, what song is that?
Take Me to Your Leader is this?
Really?
Is supposed to be.
Oh my God!
So speaking of anti-vaxxers and all that stuff, and matter of fact, before you continue on, we're going to just break and play a little bit of Take Me to Your Leader, and then we'll come back.
Oh, please.
Finish off with the review.
Take me to your leader, 'cause I'm ready to play. Can't hold my breath any longer. Word on the street is she's a healer. I know I'm down to obey. And though we need a break in the chaos, yeah, I'd be lying if I said I don't mind. Well, won't you please take me on? I'm dreaming you make it right. You make it right.
But it's actually more jazz than a lot of her albums, you know, and that's why I love it so much. Like the bass is so meaty, and that's who I'm assuming is Dave. And my tripod here is waving around. But I just wanted to actually give you a little taste. Sorry about that. You'll get seasick, I'm sure. That is the lyrics are: have you ever been inside a song that really changed the way you feel, that really changed the way you look at the world forever? Find the sound that moves you to forget all of your troubles, and you must hear it again so you can breathe. Don't you wonder sometimes about sound and vision, which she also then makes it as in Bowie, sound and vision.
Sound and
so
vision.
It's a direct reference. This is a song that I play when I must find a way to carry on. Oh, you know, melting there. You know, that just does weird things to my pelvic floor. Anyway, you know it. I absolutely adore this album. It's so timely, and it's so excited that she's coming back.
That's right. Because, so what do you think the live show is going to be like?
Oh, it's going to be absolutely spectacular. I mean, if she's bringing the band, well, obviously she can't bring Tony Allen.
No, Tony won't be there, sadly.
No, but you mean the thing was, I mean, she's so wonderful and complete and whole as a performer, you know, as just herself playing pianos or guitar as she did when she played at the Tuning Fork. But this is going to be at the Avondale, you know, the Hollywood Avondale, and this is going to be at St. Paul's in a church in Wellington where I've played. Oh my gosh, it's all about me. It's so wonderful. I'm going to have to go to all four for sure. I'm going to book my tickets for all four.
Maybe you can be your tour manager for the show for a year.
I don't think she needs one. No.
Okay. I'll
just sort of pop up at the most unlikely, only me kind of hi. You know how much I love it. Yeah.
So 2 thumbs up.
Oh, actually, feet in the air. All my toes and fingers are up for this one. Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, what do you think, Jemilah?
I thought it was really cool. It's really interesting hearing someone like who loves an artist so much talk about an artist that you don't know, because it's like the thoughts that I have but unraveled, you know, like without even having heard much of her previous work. I liked how sort of like experimentally jazz it was. It wasn't jazz, but it was jazzy, and it was kind of like all these different kind of percussive elements, and her voice too being kind of percussive, coming together to be this kind of like, not an experiment in a bad way, an experiment in a cool way, like a different sound. And I thought that was really, really interesting.
All righty. I think we've covered it. I'll let you have the last word, as I always do.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it's really great because it's got the recording of her talking with the rest of the guys in the studio and just saying, oh, you know, this is just too fun. You know, you guys do want to do another one. And we're going to meet again this same time next week. And it's actually lovely to have that segment recorded and kept in there. It's beautiful.
Nice one. I can't wait to hear live and in person.
Oh,
okay. Thank you, Caitlin. We must do this again sometime. All righty.
Yeah.
See you later.
Anytime. See you, love.
Okay, Jemilah and I are still here. We're going to talk about films with Oxford. We got Last Night in Soho. I loved it just for the soundtrack, but you're going to tell me why should we love it or not. Tell us a little bit, give some background on the movie first there, Oxford.
Okay, well, so Last Night in Soho, it's a new psychological kind of horror film. It's by Edgar Wright. Right. He's in a lot of films in the past that are in that very stylish. He did Baby Driver, Shaun of the Dead,
Hot Fuzz,
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Well, yeah, Hot Fuzz, all of those films. But so it's a brilliant. It's got his flavor, which I really liked, but it's something unique, and it was really interesting. Just very quickly, we mentioned last week talking about Don't Look Now. And there's a big feel of those early 60s, 70s kind of vibes in it. But so it's a lovely, tense, psychological, beautiful, gorgeous film that is set in the 1960s.
Yep, and stars a Kiwi.
Yeah, it stars Aaron Thomason. And so it's this in the 1960s about a young woman who goes to London to study fashion design, and things get spooky and unravel. But there's much more to it than that, and it's a beautiful film. All right,
well, let's watch the trailer, and then we'll come back and decide whether we like it or not. Okay?
Okay.
Everyone's waiting for you. Everyone's waiting for you. Do you believe in ghosts?
All right, so that was the trailer. We're talking about Last Night in Soho. Let's skip over to Jemilah and see what she thought of it. Did it blow your little mind?
I thought it was cool. It was a bit like the trailer makes it sound a lot more like sort of Hollywood than the actual film is, and I think that's like I liked the way that the film was shot. Like I liked the 60s music, and I liked the style, and and I liked the actress, like the acting, and it was really well. Like, there's characters I've seen before, but also actors I haven't seen before, and so that was like kind of a good mix. And I thought that the storyline was cool. It was definitely like something I hadn't really heard, like seen before, done in the same way, which is kind of cool. And I definitely like the psychological aspect of it more than the horror aspect of it. So I enjoyed like what she was going through, but the further it went on, the more kind of like away from reality it became, and I sort of became a little bit dissociated from the storyline because it became a bit like harder to believe.
Yeah, it got a little stabby there near the end as well.
Yeah.
It was kind of high, but right at the beginning, I swear, you mentioned the soundtrack. The music is, it's all this 60s Brit pop, World Without Love, and You're My World by Cilla Black, and Petula Clark's Downtown. I was in heaven at that point.
They had some Happy House as well in there.
Oh yeah, so that was, I love that, because that's what I love about his directing. He's not afraid. Another director would just say, "Oh no, we can't use Susie and the Banshees because it's not part of the vibe that we're laying down." But for that scene, that he uses Susie and the Banshee and Happy, and it's perfect. I was sold at that point. Yeah, but I do think that the film lost a little something along the way, but it kept me interested throughout. I was happy I saw it. So give us the official review.
For me, you're the words. Oh no, the pressure. Well, so I actually, so from what we've both just said, it's really interesting because I'm split in the middle of that. So I agree that it did start to lose its way, but I enjoyed the not subversion of expectations, but how it was something different. One of the things I love about his films is that they're uniquely like isolated as that sole thing. It's not a copy of something else. It's not a try at something. It's a unique little snapshot, like a dream that he's had. And I find he does that really, really well in cinema. And I absolutely would love to see this again a handful of times, actually, because it does have that beautiful fever dream and that black swan kind of crazy, you don't really know what you're seeing. And it's, the unreliable narrator is always a beautiful.
She's definitely unreliable.
Exceptional. But
and we should mention Diana Rigg, her last performance before she passed away.
Yes, it was. There were two actresses actually. The barmaid, the lady who was the sage barmaid. Yep. As well, and Diana.
Yeah, which of course she was like pretty much the template for the character that.
It was amazing. So, the last thing I'll say is, so for me, one of my favorite films is Midnight in Paris. Which is much different, but somewhat similar. And I think it's that beautiful thing of you watch the first part of that film, the start of this film, Last Night in Soho, and you dive into this world and you get seduced by the glamour and the beauty and the nostalgia of it all. And beneath that is that hallway scene in particular, the post dance. There's a real grittiness to it where, the fairy tale starts to break down, and at the end of it, there's a big witch ready to.
Yes, there is. And I got to say, usually we talk about the editing, and it's like, well, you're struggling and talk about something good, but the editing is amazing in this film. The cutting, and I mean,
production wise. So it's funny you mentioned music, because music production, editing, just all of the actual film making qualities itself are flawless. I find. Well, it's almost flawless, pretty much. They're just simple things like the light, the bright neon flashing light on that thing transitioning between those dreamlike states. Everything feels meticulously planned but not overdone. And there were a few points where it started to drift that way towards the end, which I'll agree on, because it's a almost 2-hour film, and it's a one to kind of take you through. But I loved it. Excellent. I'm keen again. Last Night in Soho. Boom. Do it.
Okay, now it's time for our single of the week, and this single of the week is by somebody named Mousy. The song is called The Bench. Mousy apparently is from Christchurch, and before we talk about it, let's watch and listen to it.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. liked my company. He said I should have been a boy so he could hang with me. My heart sunk in a dark, my face was blushing red. I was sitting on the bench, soaking what he said.
All right, so that was The Bench by Mousy. The song was produced by Ben Edwards. And it's a result of the prosperous bout of music making Mousy found in last year's lockdowns, which seems to be a current theme in the music being released.
Yes, indeed. Well, what I loved about it was just it rocked out. It's like rock and roll guitars, blah blah blah. That's good stuff. So what?
It's funny too. It's humorous. Like I like the lyrics. It's quite sharp and witty, and watching the video at the same time definitely gives you like even more of an experience with the like attitude that comes along with the song. And I think that's really cool.
She explains that she says the song has a charming rage boiling inside of it. I love that.
And that's what I mean. It's humorous. It's like speaking about something that's quite serious, like quite emotionally serious, but it's not in a cutting way. It's quite funny, but makes you think about it a bit more, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool these singles are coming out like this. I mean, they just come out of nowhere and they appear in an email first thing in the morning. You're like, oh, who is this? And it's like, hey, actually, this is pretty good. So, yep, this is definitely a highlight of last week's singles. Okay, now we got the interview of the week. And this week I talked to a guy named Dylan Hartigan, who I'd never heard of. But a lot of people, especially in the States, it's because I've never watched The Voice, apparently. So he's a big winner on The Voice a couple of years ago. You ever watch The Voice?
Yeah, it's kind of, a good bit of TV, a good bit of, I don't know what you call it. It's so dramatic and unnecessarily like dun dun dun, but it's kind of like fun to watch in that way, because especially like the more you understand music and the more you dive into the technicalities of it, watching a show like that and understanding the production / musician side of it is really hilarious. It gives you this kind of like double point of view.
All right. Well, so he's got an album out called The Way My Bones Creak. Now, he's 25 years old, and you look at him, and his bones are not creaking. I'm sorry. But let's watch the video. My bones are creaking? All right. This is a song called Moonlight. This is from his album, and then we'll see some of the interview.
I woke up to the scent of perfume on my pillowcase. The light looked like a million moons right below her face. I thought maybe now's the time to tell her, sharpen up and get a poetic. I thought, hey, this little part right here is what movies are made about. Yeah, I hate those corny lines that should have been written out. Now don't you be afraid to tell her one day, but seeing her right there, I just want to stop and sit and stare.
All right, that was Dylan Hartigan, a track from his new album, The Way My Bones Creak. It came out last week. I did speak to him, and so apparently he's quite the pretty boy. Are you allowed to say that these days? I guess you can say about him, because he had quite the following when he was, on The Voice, and I think he had, big stars pushing him, and he was on opening and all that. So now he's found his own voice, so to speak. And so when I was speaking to him, I thought, well, maybe you can tell me about being on The Voice. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for an aspiring artist? Being on The Voice, there are some people who are going to think, well, doing a TV show and being in a competition is not the best approach to being a serious artist. And others will say, of course, everybody knows who I am now. What better footstep to make it onto wherever you want to go? So you've been through that process. What do you say to folks who
that process is? It's sort of like taking steroids.
Okay. Yeah.
The people that naturally get to that level are much more sustainable.
Right.
But it's a quick boost.
Right.
And if you manage to get a nail in the wall or a hook in the wall while you're up there and stay there, that's great. But probably 95 to 99% of people don't get that hook in the wall.
Right.
And then the collapse afterwards it's like brutal, because you go from playing in front of 10 million people live on that show,
right,
to then going back home and playing to 10 people in the coffee shop that you were playing in beforehand.
Yep.
And I'm not ragging on it, because I think giving artists any sort of a platform is like a dream come true. But I wish that I could have done it naturally, because now it feels like there's always that thing behind my name.
And maybe you have to prove something to some people that, but you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's so hard to be considered a legitimate artist.
Right.
When your following comes from this giant, it's like making, would you rather make 6 figures working at Pepsi, or would you rather make 6 figures owning your own company?
Right. All right. That was Dylan Hartigan talking about being on The Voice. And now he's got his own voice, and he's made his own album, The Way My Bones Creak. What do you think about how does stuff like that help an artist, do you think?
I think it's a really interesting road, because it's like most people do this kind of like struggling from the bottom thing and getting more noticed and more noticed. But going on a show like that, you go from 0 to 100% overnight, really.
Yep.
And I guess that's why, you saying sort of Pretty Boy, that is so accurate, because so much of the way you present yourself matters. Because the fact that 16-year-old girls can be like, oh my God, is a massive part of the show. And I think that you're never gonna not like something that's gonna give you that boost to having an audience. However, I feel like from an artist's perspective, that part of it would be frustrating, feeling like you have to cater so much to this marketing point of view, because The Voice and who you are in The Voice, from what I've seen, is quite significantly about image and marketing. And I always wonder whether the artists that go through that process feel like they're disconnecting from themselves. And so I think it's interesting when artists will do, like you say, like he has his own project and sort of found his own path of what he wants to do, aside from what all these famous people are guiding him to do.
And I would urge people to watch the whole interview if they can, because I got the feeling from talking to him, and like I said, I didn't know anything about him beforehand except for listening to his album. I got the feeling that maybe he came out a little on the damaged side from being on that and going through that. I'm just reading between the lines of watching him and kind of picking up on vibes and stuff. But he seems to have it together now. He's living in Nashville, and he's being his own thing. And hopefully there'll be good things happening for him. All right, now we got our up-and-coming artists, which, Jemilah, you're our up-and-coming expert. You find these people. Where do you find them? This is the Fur Coats with 2 R's for some reason.
The Fur Coats. Yeah, these guys are great. I saw them open for Odds and Ends before all the lockdown things happened.
Right.
They're lovely people, really good energy that comes across on stage as well. Just sort of indie, high energy, fun music. And we'll play a bit of their song, The Weekend, so you can get an idea of what they sound like.
Institutions of the mind can't escape its confines. Learn a reason we can't define. I live for the weekends. Small man with big boots. Don't win when you lose. His teachers aim at you. I live for the weekends.
All right, so that was a song called The Weekends. It's from their EP called Tales from the Terrace, and the band is called The Fur Coats.
Yeah, I think they've been, had that classic student life experience in Wellington, and they seem like a band of friends. And I always think that we have something really special in New Zealand where bunches of mates just get together and make music. And I think that really helps our music scene become this really dynamic, warm, and welcoming place. And these guys definitely will, I think, be releasing and creating more music in the future and probably coming up on that indie band climb that a lot of Kiwi artists are doing at the moment.
And so now they live in Mount Eden here in Auckland, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll see them soon.
Pretty close. Hopefully. Once we can gig again. Yeah.
All right, fingers crossed.
Next up, we've got our album preview for albums that are releasing this coming Friday. We've got Rose Pink Cadillac by Dope Lemon.
Now, who is this Dope Lemon? It's
Dope Lemon is Angus Stone. And he's also got another project, Angus and Julia Stone, that he does with his sister.
Yes, now I've spoken to Julia, but you've spoken to Angus, right?
Yeah, he was real easy to talk to, a really chill guy. I always find it so interesting when artists have two different projects that are quite different. Like Angus and Julia Stone is like very folk, very sort of like, you know, acoustic based, whereas Dope Lemon is much more of this like sort of live indie psychedelic band sound.
Right.
And I think people are going to really love Rose Pink Cadillac when it comes out.
Let's listen to a bit of the title track and we'll come back and wrap things up, okay?
You're a rose pink Cadillac, and I love the way you roll. Sink your wild tiger teeth in my neck, till the blood flows. Life's a long ass journey with some fool that broke the map. Everyone's digging for the cross on the page. No one knows where it's at. 'Cause I love the way you move, love what you do, everything you are to me. 'Cause I love the way you walk, love what you talk, everything you do is neat.
Okay, that was Rose Pink Cadillac, the title track from the new Dope Lemon album. It's coming out on Friday, so we're going to look forward to hearing the whole thing on Friday. Anything else to add about Angus himself? Because we're going to get the interview up and running too. So,
I think that they are like doing this thing where if you pre-save the single, you go into the draw to win an actual Rose Pink Cadillac if you're in Australia.
Man,
that's pretty cool.
Now you can't beat that.
Yeah. And the record, I think one of my favorite things about Dope Lemon is that their records are awesome. Like, they've got little cats that spin around, and as the record spins, it's like animated. And I think that's like such a good incentive to actually buy the LP version. Yeah.
Yep. The vinyl. People are going, because that's the only way the artists are making any money these days is by actually selling those things. Because it's just going to everybody else. So yeah, good luck with them. I'm looking forward to it. And were they here just recently, or did they not make? Did it get canceled?
I think they were supposed to play a gig with Mild Orange, which I remember thinking was funny that Mild Orange were playing with Dope Lemon. But I don't know if it ever happened because of COVID.
Yeah, I think it fell apart right at the last minute. But anyway, we'll look for the album. Thanks for doing this. Yay. We'll do it again next week, I'm sure. Maybe we'll be sneaking out a little bit more. I don't know what's going to happen. But in the meantime, have a great week.
Yeah, you too.
Everything you are to me, 'cause I love the way you are, love what you talk, everything you do is neat. Love to know how, baby, I could get a chance.
The 13th Floor Uptown Lowdown is brought to you in part by a grant from the New Zealand Music Commission and by the Uptown Business Association.